The Blackhawks take down the Lightning 4-1 in Tampa to begin their 3-game road trip. And TJ Brodie was the highest rated Blackhawk. We'll talk about it next on the CHGO Blackhawks postgame show. Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks Victory Lounge. That's right. Hawks win 4-1 over the Tampa Bay Lightning. They get goals from Connor Bedard, Landon Slaggert, Ryan Donato, and Teuvo Teravainen. And Arvid Söderblom outstanding, stopping 34 of 35 Lightning shots. And yes, my little teaser at the front, TJ Brodie did have the best Corsi on the entire team.
Again, as we all predicted.
Hashtag Brodie for Norris.
Yeah, right.
Boy, there's a lot of good stuff to talk about in this game. Before we get into all of it, do us a favor. Hit that like button for us on YouTube. Make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube page as well. If you're listening on the podcast, we love you. We're glad you're here. Make sure you're following or subscribed on your favorite app. And to celebrate a win, how about a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify? How does that sound? We would love to hear that from you.
Sounds great.
There's so much good to talk about, but I think we need to start with Arvid Söderblom, who was the game's #1 star. Like I said, 34 of 35 shots saved for him. Boy, was he solid. And even when things were getting a little chaotic in front of him, which happened a few times, which will happen when you're the second worst team in the league, playing against one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah.
But, man, he was just tracking and calm and just really was. And had a little bit of seen a bit from him lately, a little bit of swagger to his game a little bit.
Confidence, yeah. I mean, when you're playing well like that as a goalie and you're seeing the puck well and you're positionally sound, like that gives you a lot of confidence, and it gives the guys in front of him a lot of confidence too. So that's fantastic to see for Söderblom.
Yeah, he was outstanding. And while we're telling you about the 3 stars of the game, we might as well. #2 star was Connor Bedard. Get a load of this. A goal, 3 shots, 12 shot attempts, won 5 and lost 1 faceoff. That's 83%. from the faceoff dot for Connor Bedard.
Pretty good.
And the 3rd star was Braden Point. He's good. Keep an eye on that guy. He might be something someday.
Let it play out.
So here are our 4-star nominees tonight. Landon Slaggert scores his first goal of the season in his first game back. That is an 82-goal pace for the Notre Dame legend. Frank Nazar, who yeah, exactly. Frank Nazar did not end up on the score sheet, but was just all over the ice. Had a shot on goal, 3 shot attempts. But, man, making great back checks, defensive plays, winning board battles, doing everything.
That's like when we talk about with him specifically, but then also some of these other young guys about like being able to be effective outside of the game with the puck on your stick. Tonight's game from Nazar is exactly what you would want to point to, because he was just all over the ice, never giving up on a play.
Yep.
Had a lot of great like stick lifts and stole the puck a number of times on the forecheck on the Lightning. And this game, and I think particularly from Nazar's efforts, you could see the Lightning start to get frustrated that they weren't able to just completely control the game like they did for the 3rd period against the Blackhawks just a couple of nights ago.
It's also, I'm not taking anything away from Nazar at all, but just having speed is such a gap closer.
Yeah.
Like it's you can beat a guy to the puck is a huge part of it. And when we look at what Kyle Davidson has been doing over and over, with the draft and really focusing on speed, like when this team is fully realized and they're going to be fast, they're going to win races to pucks instead of lose them. And
if at least half of the guys that they're, focusing this rebuild around so far reach the NHL, they're going to be one of the fastest teams in the league.
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun. We were talking about Landon Slaggert too and his speed.
Oh yeah.
And you could still see there's some inefficiencies in his skating, but as he turns pro and plays in the NHL and has NHL coaching and NHL training, He'll get faster. He'll get a quicker first, second, third step.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this was one of those nights where, again, you're looking at the young players, and they're very, very impressive. So get those votes in for the 4-star. I got to tell you about Seth Jones, too. He's the last nominee. 2 assists, +3, 25-30 of ice time, a shot, 3 shot attempts, 3 hits, and 2 block shots for Seth Jones.
Just filling up the stat sheet.
9 points in his last 6 games. Seth Jones has been unbelievable over the last handful of games, and really since that Calgary game where he was horrible.
Yeah. He had probably the worst game that he's had in his time in Chicago, at least. And he is absolutely bounced back from it. And that is just it's encouraging to see, because this Blackhawks team in those 6 games have had better performances across the board. And
with points in 5 of their last 6?
Mm-hmm.
Or 4 of the last 5.
4 of the last 5,
yeah.
I mean, it's been a good stretch of, streaky good hockey, but tonight was one of the games where, third period, Tampa did control more of it, but it was not what it was a couple of nights ago. And Seth Jones, again, like the way that he's been able to play at both ends of the ice, like that's the Seth Jones that you look at and you're like, yep, that's the guy that should be playing top minutes, top pair, all the responsibilities that he's had. Like that's the guy that you hope to see more often. And this team is starting to play with a little bit more confidence, and so is he.
And what I'd like to see too is in the third period, they were not just sitting back waiting to lose. They were not just sitting back trying to defend a lead.
Mm-hmm.
You saw some attack. You saw some strong forechecking. It wasn't just let's just get it out and live to survive and hope the clock runs out before Tampa ties the game. I'm not saying the Hawks were like taking it to them. They were being a little more responsible defensively.
Well, you get a goal in the third period.
Right. But they're not just laying back, especially Tampa pulls the goalie with over 3 minutes left in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And you're expecting an onslaught at that point. And they got their looks, they got their chances, Tampa did, but it never felt like the Hawks were holding on for dear life.
No. Söderblom did make some really good saves.
Yeah.
Tampa probably on a goalie having an average night probably gets at least one with the goalie pulled there. But Söderblom had some really timely saves in the third period, some spectacular ones. But yeah, I mean they pushed in the third period. They didn't just play on their heels and play prevent defense and hope not to lose. They got the goal from Donato to you feel. You get a little more tense if it's just 2-1 and Tampa pulls the goalie with 4 minutes to play, but you have that 2-goal cushion, so you probably you're still playing heads up hockey to make sure you don't give anything up, but it's a little less like gripping your stick too hard or trying to think too much, or just like you said, like just clearing the puck to survive. Like you're able to play with a little more confidence that you can maybe make something happen. And yeah, it was very a well-rounded game, well-rounded effort tonight. And this is something that they needed to do, is play with a lead and not only hold on, but add to it in the third period. So it's something that they've rarely done this year.
I want to give Sorensen a little bit of praise here too. As frustrated as we were with the lineup in the pregame show that Brody was in and Allen was out and Doc was out, I like something I've noticed about him is when a line is going well, they're back out there as often as they can be. He likes to ride the hot hand, and we saw it in the third period with Bedard and Nazar and Bertuzzi. They were out there a lot, even defending the lead. They were out there with the empty net. He was not afraid to put those guys out there in an important defensive situation. And I think these are the sort of things, as we, again, talked about pregame, playoffs are out of the picture. It's not going to happen. Now it's about turning your attention to the young guys and putting them in situations that maybe you wouldn't if you were still in a playoff chase. Having those guys on the ice in those situations is only going to help their games grow more, and especially when they succeed, when they successfully defend and don't give up the lead, it's got to be such a massive confidence boost for those guys.
Yeah, I gotta feel like those guys specifically put a lot of good tape together tonight from the game of how to play the right way, and it's something that you can build off of. Like that's a big, not only getting the win, But I mean, had they played like this tonight, but you fall short 3-2 or something like that, if it's, the score's reversed a little bit, you still have like that performance to take away from it, but it's extra sweet because you got the win.
Yeah, I mean, I think those guys are tired of, and it's been 2 years of this, 2 years plus of, boy, we played well, but we lost.
Yeah.
And getting those victories against good teams on the road, it's got to be such a boost for them. Like I can only imagine that locker room right now is lit, as the kids say.
Litty.
Sarah, do the kids still say lit?
Some do.
All right, that's a no. Damn it.
What's the proper term?
Yeah, what's the new one?
That's an Emma question.
That's true. Emma left. All right, we'll get back. We'll hit our youth correspondent Emma
See if
and
the
get
chat
back
knows.
to you.
Yeah.
If there's any younglings in the chat.
Yeah, someone's
Yeah.
got to know.
Um,
Well, we'll ask Alex Vlasic about it tomorrow. He will be with us at
might know,
2:30
yeah.
from the road. We're going to talk to Alex, so don't miss that at 2:30 tomorrow. We'll
he
we'll
said
get
that
a locker room report.
he fills in Alec Martinez on the young
He did
lingo,
say that,
so,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, and Martinez is, he's a little bit older than I am, so I think Vlasic can explain some things to me. It'll be pretty much the same.
Is it bumping?
Bumping? No.
Off the hook?
Oh, you're in the 90s there.
Off the hook?
Off the
Well,
heezy?
I'm banned from TikTok now, so I'm
Why
not
are you
hip
banned from
anymore.
TikTok?
Because I deleted the app.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You told
So
me that.
I'm kind of out of the loop right
If you
now.
delete the app, you're banned from it?
Yeah, they won't let you re-download it.
What?
If you kept the app, you were able to get back into it. But if you deleted it, like I did because I'm impulsive, then you don't get to re-download it because it's illegal in the U.S. That was like the law that happened.
Have you tried again?
I've tried. Jay, don't even.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Don't,
It's
sensitive.
All right, we have.
I don't want to get into this, but that confuses me because
It's
you
horrible.
can still use it in the
No,
U.S.
it's horrible. Yeah.
Whatever. Anyways.
Young Dangle God had a suggestion, and his name suggests he's young. Go up a little bit, Sarah. He says he was cooking, no cap.
Yeah,
Is that-
that's good.
All right, there.
Yeah, I like that one.
See,
The locker
thank
room
you.
is cooking?
Yeah,
What are they
that-
cooking?
It
No,
just-
they were cooking.
They were cooking.
in general.
Let him cook.
Uh-huh.
Let them cook. Yeah, let Bedard cook. I've seen that on social media
Yeah,
before.
that's still
The
relevant. I like it.
the jiggities, as Charlie calls them, said bussin'. Is bussin' a thing?
Bussin'.
Okay. they could
What's
be
the boots
bussin'.
thing? Boots.
Slay down boots, mama.
Slay
But that's
da-
an Emma thing. That's like
Okay.
a really deep into
I don't want to
that
violate
stuff.
any
Boots with the-
trademark
With the fur? Boots with the
trademark
fur? Is that
situations.
still cool?
I
It's
don't
cool
know.
when I was in high school.
Clearly, I don't know what's cool.
All right. Hey, the Blackhawks beat the Lightning
Yes.
4-1. What I was going to say before we got into
I'm sorry.
before we entertained the youth, about kind of the lessons to take away from this, like especially these two games against the Lightning, like you brought them to the brink in the game that you give up the third period lead, but you put together 40 good minutes against that one. You got them to overtime. It stinks that you weren't able to close it out, but then you face them a few days later and you beat them 4-1 on the road. Like going 1-0-1 in that fashion feels really good. And that
100%.
I don't know if you call that a moral victory or anything, but I think that's like what this young team, what the young guys on this team can take away from, because that's two games with lineups that are pretty young. Like this wasn't like you played that game against the Lightning in October.
Right.
Like this was two games where you're in like that youth movement phase of this season that we're in now. So I think that's a big thing for these young guys. And as they learn those lessons, they can build their confidence. And Kaylee Chelios, who was on the CHSN broadcast tonight, I don't know if it was from a conversation with Frank Nazar or something like that, but she brought up that he made the point to say, like, these young guys, him included, they don't see themselves as we're Rockford IceHogs players playing for the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
He says we are Chicago Blackhawks. Like that's the mentality that I want some of these young guys to come up with, and start to build. When I talk about like, these young guys stretching their legs in the locker room and starting to kind of take over that culture building aspect of things, is like come up here, play hard, play fast. Don't be afraid to take charge in games. Like just because you're young doesn't mean you have to defer all the time. Like take charge and have the confidence that you're in the NHL to be in the NHL, not just because it's a gift to be here.
I can't imagine there's any veterans that are muttering under their breath that the young guys are doing well.
And if
it's
they
fun for them too. You saw Pat Maroon on the bench.
Get out of here.
When Slaggert scored.
Yeah, he's happy.
Pat him on the head, like giving him a hug. Like these guys want to win too.
Right. In a season like this, for veterans that, maybe if they're saying that they don't want to be traded or whatever, like having players come in that help you win, that's going to alleviate a lot of the drudge that the first 49 games of this year has been.
All right, we're going to get to your super chats next. We want to talk about the first period because there's some interesting stuff going on in there with Foligno and Maroon that I think we'll get some good feedback on that in the chat and between the two of us. So stick with us here on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast.
And as I forgot that these were down here, Right On Optics. Hey,
Right On.
Do you need some binoculars?
Yes.
Well, do I have the product for you in this durable travel case?
Let me see. I want to do them. I want to do them this time.
You got them? All right, you got them. Right On Optics. They are the best in all kinds of optics, but especially binoculars. They offer a full range of optic products that you can see clearly through.
That's true.
They're durable. They're crystal clear. It's kind of like watching TV in 4K for binoculars. It's beautiful. And they have extensive range, and everyone can use a good pair of binoculars. Whether you're enjoying better views at your kids' sporting events, if you've been relegated to the parking lot, or if you're a middle-aged man like Jay, and you picked up birding.
I did. I saw a bald eagle today.
Ooh.
Yep.
That is cool. It's going to look even better with your Right On optic binoculars. Right On offers higher performance at a lower price, the perfect balance of performance and value that won't break the bank. And every product not only receives a full quality control inspection, they also have the unlimited lifetime warranty from Right On Optics. It not only covers defects, but also accidental damage from drops. So if you're climbing those trees to get better views of the birds,
the bald eagles,
you don't want to drop those Right On binoculars. But if you do, they got you covered with that warranty. So check out the full line of Right On Optics today at rightonoptics.com/CHGO. That's rightonoptics.com, RITON, optics.com/CHGO.
All right, and if you want to go see the red-hot Chicago Blackhawks against the Edmonton Oilers, use Game Time. Their new feature called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets for events even easier. I just hit the Game Time Picks button on the Oilers game. How about $11 in the middle of section 325 to see the greatest player on the planet? Maybe three of the greatest players on the planet. Connor Bedard, Connor McDavid,
and Landon Slaggert.
Exactly. $11. You want to sit in the 100 level? How about $65? 16 rows behind the Hawks net.
Wow.
The net the Hawks shoot at twice.
I might jump on that.
$58 if you want to go the other end where the Hawks defend twice. 100 level seats, row 16, 107 section, $58 right now on Game Time. You think we're just reading ads? No, it's real. Go save some money with Game Time. And the best part, you can see exactly what your seats are going to look like with their seat viewer. They've got low price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection. So if you once again photocopy your butt at the company party and you get laid off, it's okay. They'll take care of you. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use that code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. You buy two of those $11 tickets. You use our promo. You're in the game for $2.
Could also get your Super Bowl tickets on Game Time.
You could do that. I don't think there's $11 tickets for the Super Bowl.
Not $11, but you can do an NFL playoff game. You can still get the Super Bowl. Get the Super Bowl ones.
All right, let's see. What's the lowest price to get into Super Bowl?
Here, let me look.
$4,155 in the 600 level.
Not bad.
Could still use Game Time though.
You can.
Good.
That's the
Yep.
price on Game Time.
That's going to get you your best value for seeing
100%.
the Chiefs and the refs versus the
And
Eagles.
Taylor Swift. It's like a free
Maybe.
Taylor Swift concert.
I mean, if you're in the 600 level, how close are you to the luxury
You know what you need?
suites? You need right on binoculars.
Right on binoculars. You'll be able to look at Taylor Swift the entire game like
That's
a
true.
creep. All right, let's get to our super chats here.
We'd like to remind you folks, well, keep your questions within the boundaries of good taste.
Joker's performance, $10, says 4 goals, elevated the puck. Bedard didn't hold it too long.
Mhm.
Slaggert and 1 backside crease and 1 open net. Players doing the thing we don't normally do, and it's showing. Yep. Jason,
good stuff.
$5, says, I know this isn't positive, but I'd like to see Doc replace Maroon the next game. The hit was already suspect, and then another penalty. Diabolical. I like that word.
It's a big
And
word.
Chris P. says, did you guys catch Pat Maroon on the Chicklets podcast? Nope. He had high praise for Lucas Reichel. I think Lucas is getting better and better every game. Yeah, that mentorship with Maroon and Reichel is real. That's
Yeah, it's been working for sure.
So that leads us nicely into the conversation about the first period. And you had Pat Maroon board a guy on a play that was unnecessary, then take
Like clear boarding.
a clear board, and then take an unsportsmanlike conduct call right afterwards. You had Nick Foligno take a roughing call that was unnecessary too. You know, and you can have your opinions about this. I heard Kevin Dean during the second intermission was interviewed by Kaylee Chelios and basically said that it kind of woke up the team. I don't know. I think putting yourself shorthanded for 6 of 20 minutes against a team that just went 3 for 3 on the power play against you,
Yeah.
and having Connor Bedard then off the ice for 6 minutes
Mhm.
is probably not the greatest formula for victory.
Yeah, I wouldn't go to it too often. I mean, you'd imagine that having played in the Lightning so recently and having the power play performance that they did against you in the last game, and as Andrew Sorensen said before both of those games, stay out of the penalty box, that they would think, maybe stay out of the penalty box.
Yeah.
They didn't do a great job of that early on, and luckily they were able to kill all 3 of those penalties in the first period rather than getting scored on 3 times like they did in the first game. But, I mean, that's stuff from Maroon and Foligno that I mean, I get that there's a thing to be said for, it jumpstarts the guys, and it's just like, it puts you on your heels.
You're on your heels
and
for
I,
a lot.
I get
yeah.
that, like, it puts some energy into the team when you get fighting, when you get a big hit, like stuff like that. Like, I get that, but also, like, it's got to be you got to be situationally aware. The Foligno fight, and he's coming off of the embellishment.
Ready to
call.
apologize to the coach.
Yeah, where they score on that extended power play, that extra 2 minutes. So he's kind of not on, the thickest of ice when it comes to taking penalties and stuff. And, the collision with Girgensson, and then he goes right after him. Like, I don't know. I don't know exactly what he was upset about other than that they collided and didn't really see each other. Maybe he caught him up high.
It's easy for us to see that hit on replay zoomed out.
Right.
And say there's nothing there. I mean, in the moment, it probably felt like something to Foligno. I'll give him that.
Yeah, probably felt like a blindside hit or something.
Right.
Sure. But yeah, I mean, it's just in that moment, you go after him, you get the penalty, Maroon, clear penalty, and then jaws off to the ref, gets the extra penalty. Like, it's just situationally early on in a game like that. And I think they were down. Yeah, they were down 1-0 when those happened. So you're already down. Like, I don't know. I feel like that's got to be situationally aware to make sure you're not getting those extra. You're not putting yourself in those situations with extra penalties tacked on when you're already heading to the box. Like, it's put yourself in a harder situation to be in.
There's a time and a place, like you said. And look, like, if you want to take a number, and next time you see, I think, who was it? Was it Chernak whoever it was, doesn't matter. Whoever the Lightning player was that Foligno collided with, if he doesn't like it, Girgensson, thank you. Yeah, get in his face, let him know, say something.
Right.
And then he's on the ice a lot, you're on the ice a lot, find him later and finish a check on him hard.
Yeah.
Right? Or get a little whack on the ankles if you have to. Same with Pat Maroon. You don't need to board Luke Glendening to get your point across, right? Conversely, Teuvo Teravainen gets interfered with. Bad hit, big hit. Tyler Bertuzzi says, F that. Did the same thing with Bedard later in the period when Bedard took the penalty, and then Esamont hits Bedard from behind. And Bertuzzi's like, no, that can't happen. To me, those are different things. Because what Maroon and what Foligno do is for them. They're mad about something that happened to them earlier in the game or in that moment.
Right.
So they react and take the penalty, take the unsportsmanlike, whatever it might be. Bertuzzi is standing up for a teammate. And if sometimes you do take a penalty standing up for a teammate, like Bertuzzi did, I can live with that. There are different situations. There's a different time to take these sort of penalties. And I didn't love that they spent 6 minutes of the first period shorthanded on a team that just lit their ass up.
Well,
on a power play.
I mean, it's thankfully they got out of it. So it kind of goes into the background, but I think that first 20 minutes coming off of their last game, where they had the extra penalties, and I feel like that's just kind of like a missed message, I think, of trying to be a little bit smarter, stay out of the box. Again, they got out of it. You go into the second period and you come out with a 2-1 lead. You go on to win the game. Like you kind of brush it off. But again, it's got to be something that like you in those games when you have yourself playing well up against a team that's superior, more talented than you.
Good job, good save. Nice save, Arvid.
You gotta stay out of the box, because if you push yourself down behind the 8 ball more often than not against a team like the Lightning, you're gonna find yourself in a deeper hole. So.
And just for the record, overall, I like Pat Maroon. I think that he's brought a lot of value to the team. I wasn't mad that he was in the lineup today because he was very effective versus the Wild. And when he plays on that line, he is effective. Like that, he makes a difference. He is slow, he is lumbering, but he's got good hands. He knows where to be. He's physical. He will drop the gloves as necessary. I just think this specific play was not the greatest judgment from him, and we've seen it twice from Foligno in the last 2 games. A bad moment for him too. It doesn't mean that I hate either player. They should be or whatever. It's just you just. Situationally, be more aware, get control of your emotions, and find your moment later because it's going to come. You're halfway through the first. You've got 50-some minutes to go in this game. The opportunity will arise for you to let Luke Glendening or Zemgus Girgensons know that you don't like them right now.
Right.
So,
well, and like I mentioned to you during the game, part of me was thinking in the moment, like Maroon recently has started doing more of the like taking big hits, taking runs, looking for fights. In my head, it made me think like, is he at the point in the season where he's starting to, be a pot stirrer? I used a different word during the game, but being a pot stirrer and a guy who's going to get in the other team's face. Now that we're getting close to the trade deadline and maybe showing playoff teams like, hey, I'm getting in that mode where I'm going to start, laying big hits and causing havoc out there. Who wants me? Like, I part of me wonders if that's part of his motivation of like, I'm going to start gearing myself up to get into that role to say to playoff teams, like, I'm ready to play some playoff hockey and get gritty and, play that role. I don't know. He might just be doing it because he's been bored of losing, and that's how he's going to entertain himself.
Fair enough.
Like, yeah, it could be that.
Me and Mario fought a couple times. We were bored watching Hawks games. Dropped the gloves in the office.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I don't know, but again, like you come away, you kill the penalties, you come away with the win. Let's continue to learn to not do that and take it into the next game against the Carolina Hurricanes, who again, that is a team you need to stay out of the box against. Because they just got Mikko Rantanen, if you didn't know.
He's pretty good. Blackhawks legend.
Mikko and Taylor Hall.
All right, we are going to hit the break zone again. We've got over 200 likes. Love that, but I know we got way more than 200 people watching. 500 people watching. That is, I think, our biggest show of the year so far.
That's close to it.
And only 211 likes. Be better.
Yeah, at least get to 50%.
You miss 100% of the likes you don't hit.
That's
Wayne Gretzky,
true.
Michael Scott. Let's go. Hit that like button for us.
That's
We're going to get back with any
true.
of your super chats and a ton more right here on a CHGO Blackhawks podcast.
If you are in the market for a new vehicle, you can save on the new car for you and stick to your New Year's goals by shopping Ray's Resolution going on all month long at Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake. Head in today to shop their huge selection of new Chevy models with special New Year's prices. Right now, you can take 10 to 20% off of MSRP on select new Chevy models or shop over 125 of their vehicles priced under $20,000. As one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, you'll always be able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories. You can visit our partner this January at their location on Route 12 in Fox Lake or at raychevrolet.com. And if you've heard of Ray Chevrolet, then of course you've heard of Ray's Price Promise. They're guaranteed to make your next vehicle more affordable than ever with no price changing, no add-ons, and no hidden fees ever. That means the incredible prices we're talking about right now, you can expect to see the very same when you shop Ray Chevy in-store or online. Shop great prices on new Chevys with Ray's Resolution going on, again, all month long by visiting Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive.
And you may have heard the big game is coming up soon.
A big one.
Between Kansas City and Philadelphia. Well, you should log on and download Prize Picks because it is just awesome daily fantasy fun. Listen to this. If you've never done Prize Picks before, all you're doing is picking more than or less than on several stats. So, for example, here's some props for the big game. Will Saquon Barkley rush for more or less than 112.5 yards? Will Jalen Hurts pass for more than 215.5 yards? Will Travis Kelce have more than 62.5 receiving yards? So you pick more, less. The more of these you stack, the more you win. And how about this square for free? You add this to your prize pick. Patrick Mahomes only needs one passing yard for you to win a square. I think that is a safe
Might go less than.
a safe bonus square for you to play at Prize Picks. It's so much fun. I love the daily fantasy thing because you're not always like tracking down all these complex. It's just what's your gut feeling. That's how I play Prize Picks.
More or less.
What's your gut? Maybe you have a little bit of premonition. Like, okay, I watch every Hawks game. I know Seth Jones plays more than 23 minutes most nights, so I'm going to go more on the minutes for Seth Jones. Or Connor Bedard had 12 shot attempts in this game. Maybe he's going to go off next game and have more than that. You never know. That's how you play it. It's so much fun. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code CHGO to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Again, that is $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup with Prize Picks and that code CHGO.
Got some post-game quotes coming in here. This via Ben Pope from Arvid Söderblom. Says, quote, "I feel confident, I feel calm, and that's when you play your best. When you just go out there having fun and not really thinking too much." Well said.
That's it. That's one of the first things we said about his performance tonight was how calm and poised and confident he looked.
Yeah, and that's the thing that we've heard a lot about Söderblom in his time here in Chicago when, Luke Richardson would talk about him and, how Anders Sorensen's talked about him is that it's very rare that he's rattled, like that his confidence is rattled. Now, whether or not that's true or not, because he had some pretty rough games his first full season in the NHL. I think tonight was one of those games where, in the game, he's not swimming, he's not losing his net, like positionally calm, not a lot of extra movement. And again, like when you're seeing the puck well as a goalie, that gives you just a lot of confidence to, know that you're in the right spot, make the saves, and he didn't have a hole in his glove like Peter Mrazek did.
Yeah.
So you're not letting in any of those ones that you quote would love to have back.
I'm just growing so impressed with him, and Luke Richardson would say the same thing about him, that it was just even when things are going bad, it's like, he's all right. He's confident.
Right.
He's not a guy who's going to get shaken or lose his confidence very much. He's very solid, and I think the longer the season goes on, I want to see more of Söderblom play. I'm getting to the point, and it's not that he's been bad, but it's getting to the point where when Mrazek starts, I'm like, kind of wish it was Söderblom. And I know he has to start. He's been good too. But I'm saying they'll never do this. I would do 3 of 4 Söderblom, but if it's 2 of 3, I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't gotten to that point yet, even where Söderblom's getting the majority of starts. But I would like to also I would like for Söderblom to get to that point this year, and I think we might. I think if he keeps, the thing is, like, for both guys, it's stacking performances like this where you might get one really good one, and then you're like, okay, now you're gonna go back to back with Söderblom, and then the second game it's a stinker, and then you're like, all right, back to Mrazek.
Yeah,
he has a bad one. It's like, all right, back to Söderblom, then he has a bad one. It's like, all right, back to Mrazek. He has a good one. Oh, go with Mrazek again. Stinker. Like, you want to be able to have some confidence that these guys can kind of stack some of these performances. And the last 2 games, last 2 starts for Söderblom were these 2 games against the Lightning, I believe.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, 5 goals against in 2 games, made, what's the math here? What's 5 minus? How many saves did how many shots did he face? 75? 35 and 40?
35 today.
So yeah, 70 saves out of 75 against the Lightning in his last 2 games. Like, that's a good confidence builder. So yeah, we'll see what happens with Carolina. I have an inkling that it's going to be Mrazek against one of his former teams.
That's a .933 save percentage for the record.
It's pretty good. So yeah, I think that's that would be good to see him be able to stack some of these performances consistently, and that's going to help the team, as a whole. And it opens up the conversation about, like, what do you do next year? Because you got Brossoit, who most likely
allegedly exists,
is not playing this year. I mean, even Kyle Davidson was just like, if he comes back, we'll navigate the 3 healthy goalies at the NHL level, which, again, like, I can't think of a team that would willingly carry 3 goalies just willy-nilly. And B, I still don't believe Brossoit is going to play this year. So you go into next year with Brossoit missing an entire season, Peter Mrazek still on your books. Not a great season this year, but not his worst. And then Söderblom overplaying expectations, needing a new contract, and I would imagine the Blackhawks are going to invest in him.
Why not?
Yeah. So you give him
a 2-year deal and an affordable cap hit, and see if this is what he is. If he's this goalie, you at very worst, you have an elite backup.
Yeah, sure.
And I would say mid-starter.
But you're going
mid-level starter.
But then unless you move Brossoit or Mrazek in some fashion, you're going into next season with 3 goalies that should be in the NHL. And you're not gonna carry 3 goals in the NHL. It's dumb.
It's not good business. To me, it just sort of makes sense that he's not going to play this year. What's the point? It's a lost year.
Right.
Just let him heal, let him get ready for next year, and then you figure it out. But even if he doesn't come back, I am open to the idea of trading Mrazek at the deadline. If some team is desperate for a goalie, if Jacob Markstrom can't get back for the Devils, they said 4 to 6 weeks, but that's what I said about Laurent Brossoit. So you never know.
That's Dr. Luke Richardson.
And I don't know, Peter Mrazek on a good team is good enough to not lose you games.
Sure. Yeah.
And he's not elite, but I don't know. You could do worse. It's not a bad insurance policy either.
Right.
So, they've got 1 retention spot left. I wouldn't love using it on Mrazek, but I don't know. Teams get desperate.
Yeah.
It would shock me, though.
Yeah. Not at the deadline would be shocking. I feel like you barely see goalies at the deadline, but in the offseason, I mean, if there's a team that wants to figure it out, I mean, Blackhawks got him in a draft day trade.
Yeah.
So it could be a possibility.
Want to point out, by the way, tonight, according to Money Puck, Arvid Söderblom had an expected goals against of 4.18.
Oh my!
His goals save above expected is 3.19. That is a massive goal save above
Jesus.
expected.
I mean, yeah.
That's
the difference between winning 4-1 and going to overtime 4-4
yes.
by that math.
I'm looking at goals saved above expected per 60.
I mean, he's earlier this year he was
like
probably,
Hellebuck on the season. Goal save above expected is 27.5. Like,
yeah,
and he is one ahead of Logan Thompson. Those two are 11 and 12 points ahead of Lucas Dolstall, who's third. So for Arvid to have a 3+ in one game, that's
impressive.
a huge number.
Yeah,
that's a huge number. He was awesome in this game.
Why he was first star. Also coming from Ben Pope, quote from Connor Bedard, talking about his insane goal, which I can't believe we haven't even touched on yet.
We really haven't, have we?
Bedard says, quote, "You don't know till it's in, but you can feel if it's a good shot. It felt good leaving my stick." The goal at that angle, I was trying to avoid it, but phrasing. The goal at that angle was that's one of those goals that you're like, yeah, that's why Connor Bedard is who he is. That's a show of that generational talent, that high-end shot, the accuracy of it. Like, that's what makes you salivate for the future.
And when we were talking during the game too, that it seems like when Bedard scores, he like becomes he finds another 15%.
Yeah.
He gets the confidence, he starts feeling good.
Extra jump.
Yeah, and once he starts playing every game at that level of I just scored FU that he played with tonight, I mean, he was the first part of the game fine. Once that goal went in, he was just unstoppable.
Yeah.
He was everywhere and setting up great plays. There was one where I thought he should have shot, but tried to feed. I think it was Nazar right there in front in the third. Like, trying to cross ice it again.
Mm-hmm.
But he was great. By the way, here's a quote from Lightning coach and future Blackhawks coach John Cooper. Wink, we could hope. He said, "We had ample chances, especially in the first period, to not only get the lead like we did, but extend it. And for whatever reason, we're making every goalie we play look like a Vezina candidate." And so that gets a little bit frustrating. And then I think we get frustrated that we aren't scoring. Probably in the first third of the year, guys were scoring those at will. And so not only trying to overcome the other team, you're trying to overcome your own mental psyche at that point. I like that quote because that is something we've talked about with the Blackhawks a lot. And when we see them not shooting and opting for that extra pass, that's exactly what you're seeing is a lack of confidence. Is it individuals? A lack of confidence is teams.
Yeah.
And it's almost good to know that it happens to the best teams and best players in hockey too, because if Tampa is struggling to score, everyone's gonna. I mean, every freaking player on that team, and then they've got these Chafee and like all these guys who are just plug and play, who come in and have really like impressive games. Nick Perbix,
sure,
like they're just full of these guys who just figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great organization with great development, and I like the Lightning. It's a team that I will root for in the playoffs every year. I walked by Victor Hedman the other night at the United Center.
Big guy.
I was like, that's cool. Every now and again, we see somebody down there in the Bowles United Center. It's like, wow, that was somebody. I know you saw Patrick Waugh, right, when the Islanders were in town, or was that Greg?
I think that was Greg.
Yeah, like Patrick Waugh's walking around, and every now and again, someone walks past you, and you're like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
There's that guy. But yeah, Victor Hedman is like he walked in and you just knew that was somebody.
Aura.
He had an aura,
right?
Yes.
Sarah, aura, that's a thing?
That one is very much used.
Okay.
Aura is a good one.
There you go.
The lore of Victor Hedman.
Lore.
yeah, I don't know. It was cool.
Yeah.
There are still moments, even though I've been doing this a long time, where like, oh my God, that was so and so.
You get a little starstruck.
That was very cool.
I mean, when you have Bedard scoring goals like that, when you have him, not even like that, but like you said, like getting a goal or setting up a really nice play, like it kind of kicks in that extra gear that top end players have. And would you like him to be able to just kick on that gear no matter what?
That'd
sure.
be great,
And
yes.
think he'll get to that point physically, being able to have that gear at the NHL level as he continues to mature. Again, he's only 19 years old. And as you know, the team has more success and he's got more guys around him that can help him. Like, it'll be easier to get to and stay in that gear that sets him apart from the rest of the team, rest of the league, eventually, hopefully. Because, you know, it's this season and the time that he's been here in Chicago has not been full of like victory and good vibes. Like, it's been rough.
Yeah.
And he's worn it a lot. But as it, you know, starts to progress, and as we see these young guys come up, and it's just like, it's kind of like the cavalry starting to Cavalry is the mountain. Cavalry is the guys on horses.
Yes.
When these guys come up here now it's like his help is arriving with Nazar and guys like Slaggert, and like getting these young guys up here, getting them into the NHL, getting them mixed in with him, and he's, you know, found a really good chemistry with Tyler Bertuzzi. Like, once you get that moving, I think that's gonna start getting his gears moving more, where he doesn't have to pull himself into games by getting on the score sheet.
Yeah.
Like, he's able to do it night after night after night because the team around him starts going. Like, that's also starting to turn his motors.
Well, it's also just look at from when Nazar joined the team, how different Bedard looks.
Mm-hmm.
And Nazar's a guy who projects on a contender in the middle six.
Yeah.
You know, second, third line.
If he's a second line guy on a fully realized contending Blackhawks team, great.
But just imagine if the offense isn't almost solely on Bedard every night. We talked about it I think it was last week when we were talking about Tyler Bertuzzi's hot streak.
Mm-hmm.
And you went through every one of Tyler Bertuzzi's goals, and they were almost all assisted by Bedard.
The majority of them.
Yeah, and it's just, he seems to be responsible for so much. And when you look at a guy like Nikita Kucherov, who had picked up his 51st assist in this game, because he's got Braden Point, and he's got Jake Gensel on his wings, and then he's also scoring goals. You just have guys all around you that can take the load off and demand attention from the opponent. Even as well as Nazar is playing, I don't think he's at this point demanding the attention of the opponent where they have to say, be aware of where 91 is. I think it's coming. I think he will get there by the end of this year. Teams are going to start to take notice. But right now, they look at the Hawks as, if you stop Bedard, you're stopping the Blackhawks.
Yeah. Other teams will dare Ryan Donato to beat them, and they'll live with that.
Sure. And he might sometimes.
He might.
But you'll live with that.
Mm-hmm.
So when and if the Hawks are able to find this elite partner for Connor Bedard, look out.
Early returns, it's a small sample size, but you might have them. Like, their games between Bedard and Nazar complement each other a lot. And it was mentioned on the broadcast with Rick Ball and Kaylee Chelios of like how Bertuzzi is going to the net, going to the hard areas. Bedard is the guy that can score from many different angles, as showcased tonight, and be able to, facilitate a lot of offense. And Nazar is a high motor, also a playmaker, also a guy who can score and isn't afraid to get to the middle of the ice and battle and you go to the net. Like, that's a good mix of play styles to have together, and it's been working since it's been put together. And I think it'll be okay if Frank Nazar is not a center full time in his NHL career, if it means you got a guy that can play alongside Connor Bedard and they can play off of each other and start bringing some success.
Well, and look, if you talk about potentially available guys too, like Rantanen or Pettersson,
mm-hmm.
and you put one of those guys on a line with Bedard and Nazar,
playing the parade.
Yeah, that's a different level of dude.
Mm-hmm.
And
that gets you excited.
I don't know, this Vancouver thing is interesting. Like, the more this goes on, it felt like JT Miller was going to be traded to the Rangers, and that it almost felt like it was happening momentarily,
Yeah.
and then completely went
And
away.
then stopped.
And now it seems like, based on the last couple days, it's starting to shift towards Pettersson. Doing everything I can to try to get that guy. I don't know.
Well, and then there's, the next level down. It's like, well, we're also probably going to get rid of Brock Besser. Like, oof.
Well, but if they're
what is going on?
But if they're just selling off, see, like the difference between trying to get Rantanen from Colorado is Colorado is still have cup aspirations. What?
Carolina now.
No, yeah, but I'm saying like in that trying to acquire him from Colorado was more difficult, as we talked about before it happened, because what pieces did the Hawks have to help Colorado now?
Right.
Whereas if they're trying to trade with Vancouver, if they're trading Pettersson and or Miller and or Besser, they're rebuilding. They're kind of starting again.
Yeah, that's a signal, because it's rare you're going to get a guy that is replaceable for either of those guys.
Right.
In like a equal trade. So if you're moving that one of those players out, yeah, I think you're starting to signal like we're changing things up in a big way.
I don't know.
I'm
sure that call has been made. I hope they keep an eye on it. It's
as Davidson said, like if something's available that makes sense, they will explore it and see what happens.
Yeah. How do you feel about JT Miller, by the way?
I mean, I think if he's in a good situation, he's a very, very effective player. And I just think whatever's going on in Vancouver is just affecting him, because he's been good in Tampa. He's been good in New York. He's been good at times in Vancouver. Like, I think he's a quality player, but I don't think he fits the timeline. If I'm looking at Vancouver and I'm looking at if they're open for business, I would much rather have Elias Pettersson.
I agree with that. I think, I was reading about it in The Athletic a couple days ago about Miller, and it's just he seems to go as the team goes.
Right.
So when things are going well, he's happy. When things are not going well, he's upset. And you mentioned he was good with this team and that team and that team and that team, yet they keep moving on from him.
Right.
So there must be something there with him. So I don't know. I don't know. People were not very satisfied with what Kyle Davidson had to say. We broke it down on Monday, but the key phrase from that is, if something presents itself and it makes sense, we will definitely do it.
Yeah.
Or try to do it. And I think maybe people don't know that they made a big push, according to Elliot Friedman, for Jake Gensel last summer.
Mm-hmm.
So they tried to go get the best available free agent because they thought it made sense. And he chose Tampa, which, okay, makes sense.
That's a smart move.
He wants to go win, of course. Yeah. But you also, I think the rebuttal to that would be, we'll pay him more. But Jake Gensel's what, 31?
No, he's not that old.
Is he not that old?
He's 28.
To the internet, he's 30.
30? Oh,
so if you give him an 8-year deal,
turn 30 at the start of the year.
With 13-14 million just to get him to sign in Chicago.
Oh God, no.
In 5 years, you're going to be like, this was a bad move.
I mean, as the salary cap goes up, it hurts less, but yeah, that's a big overpayment.
And you're going to have Seth Jones 2.0 in the fans' minds, because Jake Gensel is going to cost you re-signing Korchinski or Doc or whoever. It might be down the road. But Rantanen or Pettersson, who are, what, 26?
Rantanen is 28, I believe, and Pettersson's 26.
Yeah, that's different.
Those are guys that if they bought into the situation in Chicago, then yeah, they fit the timeline, and they are in that elite tier of player that you play with Connor Bedard and you kind of set it and forget it. Like, those two guys, they play together, and let it play out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that Rantanen is a guy I would give $2 million more to come play here. What's your best offer? 13? We'll give you 15.
Yeah.
Come here and play for 15.
And again,
you're gonna be this other face of our franchise.
It comes down to like what those guys want to do at the end of the day too. Like, sometimes that extra $2 million on a team like Chicago might not matter, because I can get a lot of money and also win more in the immediacy. have a better shot at a cup in the immediacy, and some guys might think that way.
Sure.
But you still go out there and you still be aggressive.
Well, and I mean, Davidson said that too. He said, look, like we can't force people to stay here, and you have to be somewhat responsible financially.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just made that Gensel example. Like you don't want to pay a guy in his 30s a ton of money in a ton of years just to convince him. But if it is your Marian Hossa, which would be Rantanen, I think him specifically, and maybe Mitch Marner, you would throw in that category too.
Yeah, of a free agent signing of that caliber.
That you're not afraid to overpay a little bit on because you know the return is going to be good for a long time.
Yeah.
That's the balance. And I think one thing we can say about Davidson, whether you're a fan or not, is that he is pretty logical. He is pretty measured. He doesn't do a lot of things recklessly.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. It's going to be a very interesting offseason. Because even if you had to settle for like a Brock Besser or something, that would still help Bedard out big time.
Yeah, I would settle for a Brock Besser. I think that's a guy that comes in and has a game that helps this team. And again, going into next year, if you're looking at this roster and you got most of the guys that played tonight, as far as the young group goes, you have them on the opening night roster. You got Tavo and Bertuzzi. You know, if you add a guy like Brock Besser and you swung for Marner or Rantanen or whoever is that top forward free agent, I think that's okay. Because then also, you know, not to be forgotten, this team is very, very likely picking in the top 4.
Yeah.
And very likely whoever they get out of those first 4 picks at the top of this 2025 draft class, they're very likely plug-and-play NHL players. So, you know, you look at like, oh, who can you match up with Bedard? It might be one of the forwards that, you know, that's at the top of the list. It could be a Michael Misa or a Porter Martone or James Higgins. Like, it could be one of those guys that you get. Or, you know, you go with Matthew Schaefer if he's that impressive to the Blackhawks and that can't miss as a defenseman. Then you look at your surplus of young defensemen and you say maybe we trade one of these guys who's on the cusp of being an NHL regular on the blue line to a team that might be loaded with forwards that are, you know, on a contender trying to crack the NHL roster but haven't as a 20 or 21-year-old that's a top pick, top prospect guy. Then you make that switch and then you get a guy that way. Like, it's going to be very interesting to see how something like that, specifically with their draft selection and their strategy with that first round pick, shakes out.
Got a lot of people in the chat saying no to Mitch Marner. A lot of people don't like 68 points in 50 games and 707 points in 626 career games. That's one I wasn't expecting to see.
I would take Mitch Marner on this team.
Yeah, I would take him on this team too.
A lot on this team.
Yeah. I guess 50 points in 57 playoff games is something to sneeze at.
No, he's a playoff ghost.
All right. Interesting. Okay. Let's get to the 4-star of the game. The winner tonight was Notre Dame legend, Landon Slaggert. 56% of the vote. Tons of votes. Thank you for that. Yeah. We do need more likes, though, by the way. We have 455 watching, 288 likes. Please smash that like button for us right now because we've got a big announcement if you hit it. Come on. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Smash the like button. Do that. All right. The big announcement is Alex Vlasic tomorrow at 2:30. He'll be on the show. Don't miss it. He'll be on from the road. Very excited to talk to him coming off a win.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've really had the opportunity to do that, especially against a good team like Tampa. By the way,
we haven't yet.
I do this after every win, recapping the Hawks wins this year. Oilers, Sharks, Avalanche, Kings, Ducks, Wild, Panthers, Stars, Rangers, Islanders, Caps, Kraken, Avalanche, Montreal, Canadiens, Golden Knights, and now the Lightning.
16 wins, and the majority are against teams that are going to be in a playoff spot.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Which is what makes the other ones quite frustrating.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, 100%. Alrighty, we are going to wrap things up. Like we said, back tomorrow with Alex Vlasic. Hey, do us a favor. while you're hitting that like button, when you're done doing that and you're done subscribing to our YouTube page, head over to allchgo.com. Become a diehard. You get a free shirt or hat when you sign up, access to all of our great written content, 20% off all of our merch, takeovers, golf outings, watch parties, draft parties, anything that we sell a ticket to, you're going to save 20%. So it'll pay for itself. Lickety split. Allchgo.com is the website, or click that QR code, or scan that QR code rather, that's on your screen right now. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 2:30 with Alex Vlasic on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.